We have ignition. Strap in. You're about to listen to.
Welcome to the NBZ Podcast.
Everybody says, who does he think he is? I just told you who I thought I was.
NBZ.
I just told you. That's who I think I am.
I'm a terrible person who's come to believe unforgivable things.
What up? This is NBZ Podcast, episode 12. So, retro, digging in the crates. I found this footage of an interview I did with my dad a while ago. Now, the thing about these kind of videos that they exist and they're on my hard drive forever, and they will die there if I don't put it somewhere where I can see it normally. So this is my effort of just, put things in a more public sphere where I can handle, or I can revisit it as I see fit, or, just a more accessible place. Because if I don't bring it up somewhere to the surface, it's just going to die there and maybe get lost. Maybe the hard drive is destroyed. So this interview with my dad, we talk about a lot of things. This is like right after my child's birth, so he was visiting to kind of help with the kid and just stuff like that. So we had a chat. I think it's important to do this kind of stuff. So buckle up. All right, Dad.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me about Jamaica.
Oh.
When you were a kid.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. So, I was born in a part of Jamaica, well, in the capital, Kingston. But in Kingston, there were several areas, and I was born in an area they called Jonestown. Jonestown was, at that time, a very quiet and peaceful neighborhood. The houses were close together. We didn't have any local playground that was in the same area. So we'd play on the streets but the streets weren't that busy either. Most of the traffic was pedestrian. So we grew up in that area in Jonestown. And I spent most of my childhood with my brother and my sister and some other relatives. Some were just close friends, but they were so close we call them cousins, and
Just like neighborhood people or friends?
Yeah, neighborhood kids, but they lived in the same, like, we had what we call a yard, which is, the yard is a building with houses on that lot. And the houses were somewhat connected, and then we shared a common area we call the yard. So we'd either, play in the yard, or you take care of the yard, like sweep it up. We'd have swings, because the yard had trees in it. I remember we had 2 trees in the yard that I lived at. One was a mango tree, and the other one was what we call a custard apple tree. So we'd climb the trees, and we'd get the fruit from the trees, and we'd make a meal out of it, lunch or whatever, when your mother didn't get home in time to cook, or, if you get up early in the morning and you were hungry, you'd get some fruit from the trees, and that would be your meal. So we'd have the trees that we'd climb, and then we'd go outside in the streets and we'd play with our friends. The schools were about 2 to 3 miles from where we live. So we'd walk to school. And we'd walk in groups, friends, or sometimes with my brother and sister would walk together, because we all went to the same school. And we'd get home at the same time, so we usually leave together and return together. We had some stuff that, our toys were made ourselves. We couldn't afford to buy toys, only at Christmas, and those didn't last long. So we played a game called cricket. So the bat would make, the ball would make, and anything else that we need to play, we'd make those. We'd fly kites, and we'd also make that.
How many pairs of shoes do you have?
Oh, well, we usually only had one pair of shoes, and that was like for our church. Sometimes when you get older, you get another pair of shoes for church, for school, but then you just wear it to school and back. You'd never play with the shoes on. Like, for example, we play soccer, but when you go to play soccer, you make sure you take the shoes off.
So you're barefoot most of the time?
Yeah, definitely. All the boys play barefoot, because what happened is when you play with the shoes on and you damage your shoes, your parents would know, and then you'd either get punishing for playing with shoes on, or if you scuff the shoes up, or if the shoes get ripped, you wouldn't get another pair until the end of the year. Wow. So you kind of protected the shoes. Jeez. And sometimes too, you protect the shoes so much that if it's raining, you take them off, because when you walk in the rain with the shoes and you walk in a puddle, the soles begin to come off. So in order to save the shoe, you just take them off and walk in the rain barefoot. Yeah. And when you get where you were going, you dry your feet off, you put your shoes back on. So the shoes was very valuable, a precious commodity. But getting back to the things that we did, there's another thing, like we didn't have bicycles. We couldn't afford it. We didn't have roller skates, couldn't afford it. But we'd make stuff like similar to bicycles, but it was made out of wood, and we call it a skate. So you get two bearings, like bearings were like maybe about 3 to 4 inches in diameter, the bearings, and you'd have two, one for the front, one for the back, and you'd make this thing looking like a bicycle, but there was no pedal. It was just the bearings, and would have a seat, and you'd have a handle, and you'd make that your mode of transportation. That was your bicycle. So we'd have those things as toys and as stuff that we used to get around. Clothing was precious too. We didn't have a lot of clothes, but whatever we had, we always stay clean. So you'd probably have like one set of play clothes that when you got home from school, you'd take your school clothes off, you'd get into your play clothes, and after your homework and everything, you'd go out and play, and then they would get washed regularly, so you wouldn't be like stinking. But you didn't have a lot of changes. You'd have like a Sunday set that you wear to church or Sunday school, and you'd have a school set that you wear to school, or usually a uniform, because at that time every kid in the same school had the same clothes, same uniform on. No tie, just the pants and the shirt were the same color. Yeah. And same thing for the girls. The blouse and the skirt would be the same color. So you take those off when you get home, and get your play clothes on. My mother at that time, she'd work, and she would go to work like sometimes in the morning, sometime before we left for school, and some days, depending on the shift, some days after. So when we got home from school, we'd have chores, like either sweep the yard, or do some dishes, or do some laundry. But everybody had a chore. And then when my mother came home, she would make the dinner. So that was good, except the days when she got home late. Because sometimes she would get home like 9 o'clock in the night. And by that time it was dark or sleepy. Sometimes we were in bed, and then we would get up and have dinner and go back to sleep. But then some days she'd get home early, like 3 o'clock, and that was good because, we're up and having a good time. My father, he worked as a cabinet maker, which was it wasn't a regular paying job, because what happened, he would do a furniture job, like would make, say, tables and chairs, or a china closet, and the people, they would pay when the job is done. So some people would pay on time and some wouldn't pay at all. And so he didn't have a regular paycheck like every week. It would be like, whenever the job is done, he'd get it. So it might be 2 weeks, it might be a month, it might be a week that the job is done and he get paid. But I would help him, I would either sand the pieces of furniture he's making before you would apply the varnish or the polish. And I would either go to the store. Sometimes I would go to the mill where they would mill the pieces, and then I would take them to the store, bring them back, sand them, or sometimes I'd sweep up in the area he's working. Whatever you wanted done, I was the gopher. Go get the coffee, go get the soda, go to the shop, sweep up, And I learned while I was there. I'd watch what he was doing. So I was learning, learning to read a tape, learning to use a saw, learning to use hammer, learning different stuff he was doing. And there were other people in the same area he was working. Like there were probably 3 or 4 other cabinet makers sharing the same shop. So I would also be the gopher for them too, But still, you would get rewarded for your chores. Like, they'd give you something for going to the store, like the change. You'd get the change from whatever you bought. So that was fun. You'd look forward to that. And also just being around, learning a trade, or, just being a helper. That was fun too. So after school some days, and on the weekends, I'd go help my father. Then other days I'd go help my mother. Like she'd be getting home and I'd go and meet her on the way home, and just help her if she needed help in the kitchen, or she just needed help going to the store, whatever she needed. Me, my brother, and my sister would help her. So that was the life growing up in Jamaica at a young age. But by the time we got to, like, say, teenagers, then we're able to, like, get jobs in stores or get jobs helping other people, So we would do things like that to earn extra money.
Right.
We had other family members or other members that were so close, we call them family, that they too would give us things to do. And also on Sundays, we would go to church. So going to church was like a thing where we'd maybe 4 or 5 of us from the same family would walk to church. And church was about 2 miles from home. But usually we didn't get a ride or get on a bus or anything like that. We just walk, and because we're walking, we're having fun, we're talking, we're making, just a game out of it, see who can can get there first walking, who can walk faster. Or sometimes we would just, while we're walking, we either telling stories or we just reminiscing, My father, he didn't go to church with us. My mother, she didn't go either because she usually work on Sundays. So, but she would encourage us to go to church, we went with cousins, and my sister and my brother would go sometimes.
So why did you go if you didn't have to?
Well, I wanted to go because I was just interested in the stories in the Bible. I wanted to learn more. I wanted to ask a lot of questions because my father, he brought up a lot of issues about things in the Bible that he didn't believe. Mm-hmm. So I went so I could get a better understanding of the things that he wanted to talk about. so I could, get his perspective, and then I could tell him what I believe from according to what I heard in church and what I read in the Bible. So that was good discussions when he and I would get together and a lot of different topics. My sister, she was, like every sister, she was always obedient. She'd go to church and she'd do what my mother told her to do. My brother, he was less of a church person, but he liked with friends. So wherever his friends were, he was there. Was always playing soccer or cricket, or just being with his friends, going on certain. We had a thing that went to get crab or fishing or something like that, which was like an all-day adventure for him. So he would go. Sometimes he wouldn't tell my mother where he was going or when he was going. So he would go on all day, and then when he got back, he was in trouble, But that was not new for him. He just do that all the time, and then
get in trouble.
Get in trouble, yeah. So we would be growing up in that area in Jonestown together, and as we got older, we'd change schools and make new friends and stuff like that. But one of the main things that we try not to do, and my sister and I mostly didn't get in trouble with the law or just getting in trouble with other people. My brother, he was mostly with his friends, and sometimes they would get in trouble.
What do you think that is? Like, I don't understand. Like, some kids are just good, and then some kids are just bad, or like they get in trouble. Or
no, it was mostly some kids are like more homely, more
that's just out of the womb. You just think there's more.
Yeah, more obedient. Like when your parents say stop, you stop. Some are more like challenging. Like say, well, I want to see what makes that work. I don't believe that what you're saying is true. So I want to find out for myself. My brother was like that. He was most challenging. He was more like whatever my mother say, he'd want to do the opposite. So if she said, don't go with those boys, he would go with them just because she said, don't go with them. And then, he would find out later on that she was right.
Yeah.
But he was that kind of person that, he was just wanting to do his own thing. Mm-hmm. My sister, she was, like more sister, she was obedient and everything like that. She would take music lessons. She'd take typing lessons.
Which sister is this? Which one?
Beverly.
Beverly.
Yeah. So she was mostly that kind of sister. And then, she'd help my mother do stuff in the house too. And then she'd also try to tell us, my brother and I, what to do. Like when my mother isn't there, she'd try to take over, be the mother, Yeah. And sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. My brother, when he came home from his adventure with his friends, he would be more challenging, like because he was older now, he would be like trying to be the boss.
Yeah.
So he would come in and he'd start telling everybody what they should be doing and what they what they shouldn't be doing, and then nobody wanted to listen to him, so they would laugh at him, they'd make fun of him. And then he'd get real mad. He'd be so, like he'd turn, like angry, real change color, And then they'd laugh all the more because now they figure they're getting to him because they're laughing at him and he's kind of responding to the laugh and getting angry. And then when they get real funny with him now, he starts chasing us around, because he doesn't like to be laughed at. So now he's gonna give us something to laugh about. So he tried to hit us, and we'd run, and we'd be all over the place running from him. At the same time, we're calling him names, we're laughing at him, and he's trying to catch us. And then after he couldn't catch any of us, he just got mad and, left the home, walk out, went back to his friends because he couldn't get his way with us, because he wanted to tell us what to do. We laughing at him. He's getting mad. He can't get his way, and then he couldn't catch us to hit us, so he'd go back to his friends. So that was real funny at the time. And by the time he left the house and went to his friends, sometime my mother would get home by that time. And then everybody would start telling my mother what he was trying to do, how he was trying to beat us, how he was trying to be the boss of us. And then she would get angry and say, oh, he has no right doing that. Oh, who does he think he is, and all stuff. So when he got home, and she's home, so she tried to get him for trying to beat us, She said, these are not your children. Who dare you trying to take with these children? And so she would start going back and forth with him, And then she tried to whip him too, but then he would try to run away, So that was another moment where we would have a good laugh,
That's funny.
Yeah, that was real funny. But what happened though, he'd have to hang around because by that time he was hungry.
He has to eat.
And he needs to eat. And she cooked, and so the food is smelling nice. It's probably his favorite dish. And he wants something to eat, and she knows that, and he knows that. So she'd feed him, But after she got done giving him a good lecture, and probably a couple slaps too, So then, after that, it started turning dark, so it was getting time to go to bed. But not quite time to go to sleep, but it's just time to get in the house. So we'd kind of, get your bath, your shower, whatever. You clean up, get ready for bed. You make sure you get your school stuff lined up for the next day, like your uniform. If it needs ironing, if it needed washing, you get that done. Make sure your homework is done. So you get your school clothes laid out in the right place, so when you get up in the morning, you can get everything ready to go to school. And so we'd gather around. After we get all those stuff done, we'd gather around. All the children would gather around, and we'd talk. And then we usually want a story, and so sometimes we'd want to hear a scary story, like we'll call a ghost story or something like that.
Who would read you stories? Your mom?
Yeah, or some other adult that's in the home.
Okay.
And so we'd want to hear a real scary story. And what happened is that when you hear the story and it's scary, now you got to go to sleep, but you're so scared that you don't want to go to sleep. So now you'd be trembling and everything like that, remembering all these ghost stories and these real scary stuff. So that was how the night ended, with a story and you being scared and everything like that. But by the time you got into bed, you pull the covers over your head, and you were happy to be inside the house.
Tell me the story about when you tried rum.
Oh yeah. That was when my father, he was a very likable person. Everybody that he would work for, always remember him at Christmas. So they would give him a bottle of gin or a bottle of rum or a bottle of scotch, some kind of alcohol. So all the people that he would work for and his friends would give him these gifts. And so he'd have like dozens of bottles of alcohol all over the house. And one Christmas, he invited his friends over. So all his friends were there at the house. They were drinking, and so they were laughing and they were playing dominoes and laughing. So I was watching them. I'm listening to them. They're laughing. So it seemed like they're having a good time. And I'm saying,
how old are you at this point?
At that time, I might have been about 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
8, 10. So at this time now, I'm saying, why are these men laughing so much? They've been laughing for hours, And I said, what? I'm trying to figure out what's making them laugh, And there wasn't a lot of food, It was mostly drinking that they were doing. And I'm saying it must be the stuff that they're drinking that's causing them to laugh so much. So I said, well, if that stuff make them laugh, I want some of that stuff because I want to laugh like that, you know. So I sneak around and I got a bottle of one of the drinks that my father had, and I poured it in a glass, and I was trying to copy what the men were doing. So if they had a little soda or whatever, you know, water or whatever, I would make the same drink that they were making. And so I started drinking it because I thought it would make me laugh, but it didn't. It made me sick. And so after I had a few swallows of that, and it didn't taste good, you know. It just tasted like bitter. You know, like it was. I thought it would taste like syrup or something sugary, you know, sweet. But it had a little bit of sugary, but most of it was like sour, bitter taste.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I'm saying, this doesn't taste nice, but I'm going to drink it anyway because it's going to make me laugh. So I drank it, and I didn't start laughing. So I'm saying, what's wrong? So maybe I didn't have enough. Maybe I need some more. So I got some more, but by the time I got the second glass, I started feeling sick in my stomach. I'm saying, no, this isn't right. This is not making me laugh. This is making me sick. By the time I figured out what was going on, I started throwing up.
Oh, man.
But I couldn't let them see me throwing up because they would know why. So I had to hide. And I was so sick, and, you know, my stomach was churning. I was throwing up. I had to hide. I had to pretend like everything was all right, like I was fine. You know, if they called me to say go to the store, I had to smile and laugh and act cheerful. But I was sick like a dog, you know. So that was my first experience with alcohol. I thought it was gonna make me laugh and it made me sick. And then I said to myself, no more. I'd never have another drink of this, no more. This is nasty. And so by the time my mother got home, I wasn't feeling much better, but what happened that I wasn't throwing up as much like when I first started. And then when she fixed something to eat, then I started feeling better. Once I got some food in my stomach, then I started coming back, you know. But the memory was still there, you know. And the laughter was, I said, well, you know, I'm not about to try to laugh like these guys because it doesn't have the same effect on me. So,
that's funny.
Yeah, I never try that again. And I hope, I don't know if my father found out, but if he found out, he didn't tell me.
Yeah.
Because I know some was missing out the bottle, but maybe he didn't realize it, you know. And I didn't tell him, you know. But the next time I had alcohol was with my father. It was a Friday evening, and he had got off for work. And by that time, I was in high school. So he got home, and he said, come with me. I didn't ask him where we're going. I just was so glad that he got home, and he wanted me to go with him. So whatever he said, I was going to do it. So he said, come with me. So we started walking, going down the street, walking together, you know, just talking, how was your day, you know, how is that job coming along? So then he walked in a bar, and, you know, there was no problem with me walking in a bar at that age, because at that age, there was no restriction on, say, underage drinking in Jamaica at the time. Mm-hmm. So walked in the bar, sat down on a stool, and then he ordered a beer. So he ordered 2 beers, you know, and that's the first time he gave me a beer, and I started drinking it, but I didn't enjoy it because it was bitter, you know. And at that time I was mostly used to sweet things, you know, like soda and like lemonade and stuff like that. So, but I was really happy to have my first beer with my father, you know. So sitting down at the bar or talking, you know. I'm grimacing while I'm drinking it now. My face is like in court, you know, like. But anyway.
I remember you gave me a sip of your beer. I think I was like 8, and we were watching football.
Yeah.
On like a Sunday, it was Budweiser, and I'm like, this is nasty.
Yeah. So it wasn't a pleasant taste, but it was a pleasant occasion because I was with my father, and I thought it was like, like I'm coming into manhood now, this is my coronation into into my manhood. So I was happy, and then of course my mother, she didn't mind, she didn't say anything because I was with my father,
Yeah.
So and we were close to home, we were like in the same neighborhood. So we finished the beer, and then we went back home, and like a father, he would like tell you things like, and we'd love to talk about the Bible, because
So you say he believed or he didn't believe?
no, he really didn't believe a lot of stories in the Bible. So we were going back and forth on some of the things because I believed it. Like for example, one of the stories he used to talk about was the story about Joshua commanding the sun to stand still. This was in a battle where the Israelites were fighting. They had just entered the Promised Land, and they were fighting the Canaanites. And the sun was going down. It was getting late in the evening, and the battle was raging. And they were kind of running out of time before it got dark. And so in the Bible it says that Joshua commanded the sun to stand still. My father, now taking a scientific view, says it's impossible, because if the sun stands still, then the earth would fall out of orbit and everything would crash. And he's giving all these scientific views why it's impossible. And I'm just coming from the Bible saying, well, the Bible says so it's got to be true. And if this is wrong in the Bible, then everything else is wrong, and everything else can't be believed. And so we'd be going back and forth. But even until he passed, I wasn't really convinced 100% that he believed everything in the Bible, because I had conversations with him, and he would say yes to some things, but he didn't really say yes to everything, that he believed everything in the Bible, and he changes his viewpoint, or he has a new opinion on what he read. So we really, talk a lot. But one of the reasons why I learned so much about the Bible was because of his viewpoints, because when he was trying to show me why things couldn't happen, I would always go back and reread it and talk to other people, like pastors or other people who knew more about the Bible than I did, to get their viewpoint, why they believe it. And I went along with why they believe it and why the Bible says so, even though I couldn't prove it. So I'm based on just what we call faith. I believed it, and my father didn't. But because of that, he caused me to study the Bible more. So
Interesting.
yeah. So he of course read more than I did. He was reading like late at night when I would go to bed.
Reading the Bible or reading other things?
No, he was reading other books. Like he was reading Marx. He was reading he would read Shakespeare. He would read a lot of different authors. I remember one of the books he was reading, which I picked up after and started reading, was a book called How to Influence. I'm trying to remember the name.
Influence people?
Yeah, How to Make Friends and Influence People.
Right. It's a classic.
Yeah, and when I saw the cover, I was interested, and I said, gee, that must be a good book to read. So when he got done with the book, I started reading it, and I found it very, very interesting. Then it started coming to me why he had so many friends, because he was that kind of person who knew how to influence people, how to make friends. Even though you might disagree, you learn how to get along. Mm-hmm. So he was an avid reader, and I didn't read half as much as he did, but he would encourage me to read, and he would encourage me to debate, like don't accept everything you hear.
Right.
And don't believe everything everyone tells you, because you have to research it and find out for yourself what's right, what's wrong, what's true, because people make mistakes, and not because everybody else says it, or not because it's 100 years, for 100 years people have been saying this, that doesn't mean it's right.
Yeah.
So he caused me to like take a second view, or think twice. But yeah, his story, his upbringing was a lot different from mine. He of course, at the time, he didn't have as many opportunities for education as I did, but he would have done a lot more if he was more aggressive. Like, he was more of a person who would give up his rights just not to have a fight. I remember he told me a story of when he was working at it was a institution where for the mentally ill people, and he had a chance to go to school to be a nurse and to get a promotion and to move up higher. But because someone else that was working there that was jealous of what he was doing, because when he did his job, he was outstanding, and the people there liked him.
Yeah.
But he had a fellow worker, a co-worker that was jealous, and so this opportunity came for him to move up, but this co-worker just kind of trying to make trouble for him, and so he didn't take the position just to avoid a confrontation.
Yeah.
And I've seen situations too where he would make a piece of furniture for someone. They would promise to pay him, and they didn't pay him. And whereas I would call the police or I would start a fight, he didn't. Actually, he would send me to collect, and then when I went and I would go to confront the people to collect, they would give me a story, and I'd go back to him and I'd tell him, oh, these people, they're making a fool out of you, why don't you just, take the furniture back until they pay for it? And no, he just wouldn't do that. He was not that type of person. He was the type of person that if you told him a story and he'd know that you're lying, and he had $1, his last dollar, he would give it to you.
Wow.
Yeah, and some people, my mother used to get angry with him for that, because sometimes my mother would be saying, your children need that dollar, and you give it to this person and you know that they're lying. But he was just that kind of person. He would never make a war over something that, small.
So both your parents are Jamaican, right?
Yeah. My mother and my father, both Jamaicans.
Born and raised on the island?
Yeah, they were born and raised. My mother, I really didn't get to know what part of Jamaica she was from, but I got to know that my father was from a part of Jamaica called Maypen, which is in a parish called Clarendon. And I really never remember meeting my grandfather or my grandmother, but I got to meet one of my father's sister later on in life. But he had probably about 3 sisters, and I only got to meet one that I can remember. Mm-hmm. He had brothers I heard about, but I don't remember meeting them. And then, of course, he had other children that I don't remember meeting, except for 2, one sister and one brother that I met. I'd been with them on a short occasion earlier, like I must have been about 8 or 6. And then when I got much older, grown, married, then I got to meet them again, and, just get to know them a little better.
Yeah.
But we didn't grow up together. The brother and sister that I grew up with together was on my mother's side. And my mother, she had sisters and brothers that I knew because we were all living in Kingston. So I knew where their homes were. I knew where they worked, so I could go visit them. I could go to their house. I could spend more time with them than with my father's side of the family. And my mother's sister and brothers, they were very helpful, because I remember whenever I needed anything, I could always go to them, and they would give it to us. So we get to know our cousins on our mother's side more than my cousins on my father's side, or my aunts and uncles on my father's side.
What was your house like?
The house was a one-room house where we would all sleep in this. This was like a big house with like 4 rooms. It had 4 rooms, but each family had a separate room. So there were 4 families.
4 families in a 4-room house.
In a 4-room house.
That's really tight.
And yeah, and each family had kids. So with us, it was like, my sister wasn't in the same room as my brother, but it was my brother, my father, my mother were sleeping in that one room. Now, with that room, we had like what we call a yard. So we had a kitchen, which was detached from the room. We had a bathroom.
Everybody cooked in the same yard?
Everybody cooked in the same kitchen, in the same yard. Everybody used the same bathroom. Everybody used the same toilet in the same yard. Everybody did their laundry in the same yard. Everything, you did everything in the same yard. And this yard, which was also a play area, it had 2 trees in it.
Yeah.
And it was about 50, the play area was about 50 feet by 100 feet. And there was another area in the front where was much smaller. That's where you enter from the street.
Yeah.
And that area was about maybe about 10 feet by about 20 feet.
What about the other families? Did you know them?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You knew them, but they're not family. They're just...
No, but we're so close together, we call them family.
Yeah.
So we'd all be cousins, you know?
Right.
And as a matter of fact, we still stay in touch up to this day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. We know where each other live, and we know each other's phone number. So these families now, we were we take care of each other. So if, for example, I needed something, like even if I needed food, and my mother wasn't home, they would give us their food. So when that family cooks, they would cook and we'd have dinner with them.
Oh, wow.
Or breakfast with them. If they needed anything, they'd send us to the store. We'd go to the store for them, or with the other kids, you know.
Yeah.
If we were playing, we'd share the toys together. So even though there were 4 separate families, but it was like one big family.
Yeah.
So it could have been about a dozen of us here, together.
Yeah.
And then we had a matriarch, which was an older person that it was a relative to one of the families, but it was like a grandmother to everybody.
Right.
So that person gave the orders to everybody. but so we'd listen and would obey, we'd be respectful, but we knew who our mother was.
Right.
And everything like that. So we grew up together in that. And the nice thing about this situation was that if, for example, my mother, because you had to pay rent for the place, but if my mother and father couldn't come up with a rent, they were very lenient. They wouldn't put you out, you know. They let it ride until they can pay.
Yeah.
And of course, we'd whatever we needed to do, like if some repairs needed to be made and my father could fix something, he'd fix it without charge. So, it was just that relationship that we had. Next door to us now these families were clustered. Like you'd have this house, 4 rooms, you'd have families in each room. You'd have a play area, which is a yard. You'd have a fence, which would separate your yard from the next yard. But, it was a repeat of the same thing the next
Uniform.
over. Yeah, uniform. You'd have another family. You'd have another 4th family living over there in 4 rooms with children and so on. So you'd have that all around you, and you'd know the children next door and stuff like that. And you'd either call over the fence or something like that to the families if you needed something or if something was happening. Like, for example, if there was something happening in the street, like a fight, like a street fight, everybody from all the yards would come out in the street, So you'd either try to break it up or you'd be taking sides or you'd be, calling the police or something like that. But once the alarm goes out, all the houses emptied out into the street, So
it was a dangerous area or no?
At that time it wasn't, but later on it became very dangerous. At that time, like you'd have people who would be more like, like let's say it takes a village to raise a child. So the families, the mothers would look out for the younger children. Even though it's not your child, you'd look out for them. So if someone is trying to take advantage, if someone is trying to, like I said, beat up a little child, you jump in and say, like, this is your child. Oh, you can't do this, And so they were like that, very protective of the younger children. And there would be like, also, if you're doing wrong, they would either tell you or tell your parents or give you a whipping,
Right.
So they'd do that. And also because it was a kind of neighborhood thing, if someone outside the neighborhood comes in to make trouble, then everybody in the neighborhood would come out as a group to protect that child or that person. Because sometimes we would go from one neighborhood to the next, and if one of the boys in our neighborhood went into some other area and he had a fight or he got in trouble, then those kids came over to our neighborhood to take revenge. Everybody from our neighborhood would come out to back him,
Yeah.
So because of that, we're like family, knit together. And when it rained, we kind of played in the rain. We didn't have to worry about getting a cold because the temperature was like 80, 70, So when it rained, it wasn't a cold rain. So we'd either play in the rain, but the rain would run in the gutter, which was on the side of the street. So the gutter would be like a little play area, and we'd have these little things that we make they would look like little canoes, but they would be about, say, 2 inches, an inch wide and about 2 inches long, and we'd race them.
Oh, little boats?
Yeah, little boats. We'd race them in the gutter.
Right.
And so that was the fun part when it rained.
Boat races. All right, we're gonna stop it because I'm running out of battery on these. That's good though.
Oh yeah.